Welcome to another exciting episode of American Warrior Radio, coming to you since 2009. If you or someone you know has ever worn the uniform of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force, or National Guard or Reserves, you've come to the right place, American Warrior Radio. We're always efforting to bring you news, notes, interviews, and current events for all things military and veteran related. The bumper music for American Warrior Radio is provided by none other than combat veteran and mill hop artist Stephen Hobbs. Thank you, Stephen. With that said, let's kick the tires and light the fires and get this episode off the ground. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We have, as always, a very special guest. She's been on the show before, Leah with Prestige Veterans. Hi, Leah.
Hi, guys. How are y'all doing out there? So glad to be here.
Yeah, we're doing great. Honestly, life is good. We live in paradise. And having you join us, because for those that don't know, Prestige Veterans has been a big supporter of AVET Project and our efforts to reach underserved populations, in particular, female veterans. This last spring, you helped enormously in hosting the very first Celebrate Female Veterans Day here in Brevard. So thank you for that. Hats off to you. You're amazing. For those that also don't know, Leah has a regular podcast that you've got to watch. And like I say with American Warrior Radio, don't just watch it, share it, get this information out. Leah, for those that haven't met you before, quick background on you and your bona fides.
So awesome. Thank you again for the opportunity for the Brevard County Women's event. That was fantastic to be a part of. But to answer your question, my name is Leah Buckles. I am a physician assistant, Army veteran, and a former compensation and pension examiner. So I run an organization full of other veterans like me that are physician assistants, some psychologists, nurse practitioners, and we assist with independent medical opinions, often referred to as nexus letters, for veterans that are pursuing additional evidence for their claims. You know, these documents are never required. I always like to throw that out there, and they can always be obtained for little to no cost from your treating provider. But if you're looking for an organization that, you know, can review your files and look at things and potentially assist you with this, you can always reach out to us and we can provide you some feedback.
And that's really important. I grabbed one thing out of there, a records review for a service member or a veteran that hasn't gotten any adjudication for a service-connected disability, so they really don't know what to do. Somebody has to step up and take a look at their service medical record, their STR, service treatment record, to figure out if they have the necessary occurrences that would make something a chronic condition, something that the VA is going to compensate for, right?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And honestly, great folks like you, accredited claims agents and veteran service officers and attorneys do a fantastic job of putting those administrative pieces together and that strategy. But for that really focused, hey, what do you think about this knee condition that happened in service, these incidents? Could this be related to my current knee condition or, you know, this back condition? I was injured. I can provide some feedback as to what my opinion is on that relationship. And that's similar to what the C&P examiner often will do when you go to a VA C&P exam. So, you know, like I said, you can always go to the C&P exam and roll the dice and see how that turns out. You can also have your treating provider or someone like me look at it and provide you feedback on it as well.
That's exactly right. You don't really want to go into a C&P exam blind. And I wanted to touch on with your knowledge and your experience, particularly people, you heard Leah say she's been a compensation pension examiner for the VA. So she knows from the get-go what the VA is looking for and what they need in order to service connect or increase your evaluation. Musculoskeletal, otherwise known as orthopedic disorders. You're very familiar with that. And I know that you brought some props for the audience today.
Yes.
So let's just talk about one that a lot of us veterans encounter and have to deal with for myriad reasons. And that's, let's say, a knee disorder. Okay, take it from there, Leah. Well, I'm a veteran. I haven't filed for this before, but I got a bad knee and I know I saw the doctor many times. Maybe I even had a little surgery while I was in service. What happens?
So I have my little knee model here. So I'm going to show you guys this. So I want to orient you to this really quick because it's obviously not on a human being right now. So just for a quick orientation, this up here is going to be your femur bone or your thigh bone. Okay. And these down here are your tibia and your fibula, your lower leg bones. Okay. This is your patellar tendon. A lot of you guys have heard about patellar tendonitis, right? This is your patellar tendon. This is
Pretty
it's
common,
actually your,
isn't it?
yeah, this is your quadriceps tendon running down into your patellar tendon. Just a couple more seconds on stuff. This is your patella back here.
That's the
And
kneecap.
yep. And these are your things you guys have probably heard of a million times. This is your meniscus in here, and your ACL and your PCL and your LCL and your MCL. Okay, so we won't go super in depth in that. I've got a great video if you want to see more about the knee anatomy and different structures and abnormalities on my channel, on my YouTube channel. So you guys can check that out. But I wanted to give you a quick frame of reference of the knee. So when you go to a CMP exam and stop me if you have questions, because I'm going to just be like rolling. So when you go to that CMP exam for your knee condition, you're going to get a packet in the mail. It's going to have information about the time, location, who the doctor is, or the nurse practitioner or PA. Usually it's going to tell you what their experience is and, how long they've been doing CMP exams, what type of doctor they are, if it's an orthopedic doctor, a family practice doctor, or whatever. So you can kind of look up information about them if you'd like to. A lot of veterans do that. Look up reviews. I don't know how helpful that is, but that's what a lot of veterans do. So when you go, they're going to go over this thing called a disability benefit questionnaire. So the disability benefit
checklist that the doctor, the provider, the examiner has, and they're going to go through it with the veteran sitting in front of them. Go ahead.
Right. So the disability benefit questionnaire, which can be, you guys can take a look at that on AVET I'll let Garen kind of touch on that.
Just real quick, people, go to avet-project.org, avet-project.org, navigation buttons in the upper left, click on it, DIY claims, click on that. Scroll about a third of the way down, you'll see a doctor with a scalpel in his hand. Kim has listed all of the DBQs, disability benefit questionnaires you just spoke about. And this one here happens to cover the musculoskeletal systems. You print it out and you look at it and you identify for yourself what kind of signs and symptoms you might have.
Yeah, so not only can you print it out and look at it so you can be prepared for your CMP, you can also ask your treating doctor if they'll fill one out for you, right? So right in the office. So that's a really good tool and resource for you to have. So it's not a big mystery, actually, what happens at the CMP exam. It's actually pretty much in black and white. It can seem overwhelming and anxiety inducing, but if you are prepared and you know kind of what to expect, we can kind of bring some of those anxieties down a little bit, hopefully. So that DBQ is the form that the CMP examiner, the compensation and pension examiner, is going to go over line by line with you. They may not be reading it off to you line by line, but those are the things the VA has asked them to, check off and just go down that entire sheet. Okay.
Well, getting back to our knee for a moment, because I know you've got another prop to show us, and everybody's going to experience this little tool. Explain that a bit. And before we get there, though, if we're talking about a knee, again, we're doing a hypothetical here, people. Isn't the examiner, and you as a former CMP examiner, you're watching as that veteran walks into your exam room. You're watching and listening for everything, right?
Yeah, we are, because there are, so for example, on the knee DBQ, it's 10 pages. So there are actually things that we have to check off about your ambulation, right? The way that you walk, right? And so that may be something I tell you, hey, get up and walk across the room for me. And it's very intentional and you know what I'm looking at. Or it could just be something that they watch you walk in from the waiting room or from the parking lot. But that's something that has to be discussed, is what is your gait like? How are you ambulating, right? So they're going to be observing that and documenting that in their report. Okay.
And when you get to the actual exam of the knee, maybe you've got the patient client sitting on the exam table. Explain that process. What are we doing with the knee from there?
So that's a great question. So these tools that I have a couple props here for you. These are called goniometers, okay? I have a little one here and I have a larger one, okay? So the smaller ones are going to be for smaller joints, like maybe the finger or the wrist, right? And then the larger ones are going to be, and there's medium-sized ones as well, are going to be for the bigger joints, like if we're measuring the knee or perhaps the back, okay? The lumbar range of motion. And
Range
so
of
this,
motion, that's it, huh?
yep, we are measuring range of motion. So range of motion is a key part of the rating criteria, and I'll pass that back over to Garen to discuss more because it's more of a legal admin issue. But that rating criteria is going to talk about, what is your knee? It's in black and white. What is the flexion? What is the extension of the joint? And different things are going to be calculated into how they
Flexion,
rate you. Mhm.
explain that for everybody.
Yeah. So I always tell people like this, flexion makes the joint smaller and extension makes it larger, right? So here I'm flexing, it makes the angle smaller, and here I'm extending and it's making it larger. Okay. So knee flexion. Okay, here's our knee model again. This is the thigh bone. So picture it as if the head of the person is up that way and the feet are down this way. Okay. So flexion, knee flexion is going to be like this. And knee extension, your knee really shouldn't extend when it's like straight out like this, because then it would be like going this way, and that's just not how the body works unless there's a ligament injury. Like
Right.
if you've got a ligament injury in here, it can hyperextend, which is actually a problem in some people. But for the most part, for the knee, they're going to be measuring that knee flexion. Okay.
And what if the veteran that's being examined has pain as they try and live, if their knees hanging off the table and they
Mhm.
want him to extend it or her to extend it? What if they have pain about halfway? What should they do?
So you should definitely vocalize that you're having pain. So that's one of the key tenets. Again, for the rating criteria is pain and motion, right? So if you've got a completely normal knee joint and it goes all the levels it should go, but you have pain and motion, from my understanding, and I'll pass this back to Garen, that's at least a 10% rating if your knee joint is completely normal, but you have pain, right? But they're not going to know you have pain unless you.
Exactly. You have to tell the examiner, you have to give them the information they need without overstating it. We don't want to beat the drum. Oh, I can't move it but an inch or there. Be honest, never lie or embellish the truth. But this is your one chance to have an examiner that's getting paid to see if your joint, if your knee, which is what we're talking about, is functional or not. But inside the knee, there's a lot of stuff, as you mentioned.
Mhm,
There's ligaments, there's these meniscus, and all those things, even the kneecap, all those things can play a part in compensation issues because
mhm.
as they break down.
Correct. And there can be multiple things wrong with your knee at the same time, too. You can have a whole bunch of issues. And some of these joint issues can cause your knee to like lock and not move, right? So if you have a torn meniscus, one called a bucket handle tear in particular, your knee actually will not bend in certain directions because it will lock and catch. But back to this range of motion really quickly, I want to kind of show you what to expect with the goniometer and how it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this tool has two arms. Okay. I'm separating them here. It has what we call a stationary arm and a mobile arm. The stationary arm is attached to the portion with this big circle on it that has
Gotcha.
a bunch of, I know it's probably hard to see, homie. It has all of these different numbers that
Mm-hmm.
are measurements, right? And then this stationary arm is attached, and this mobile arm is what they're going to use to measure. Okay. And so what's going to happen is, let's see if we can do this with me holding this knee up, is we're going to align the stationary arm with the knee when it's in a neutral position. So this is 0 degrees right here. And
Gotcha.
so what's going to happen is they're going to ask you to flex your knee. Okay. So let's just say there it is, flexed slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they're going to keep this stationary arm still. And then they're going to move the mobile arm to line up with it. Okay. And then they're going to look at it. Right. So as you can see, that knee flexion was right there. And that's at, let's see. Ugh, let me turn it around this way. This is anticlimactic, guys.
We'll
That's
edit
at
that
like
out.
20, 25 degrees. Okay.
25 degrees. So
And
that's an
so
important measurement.
this would be 90 degrees, right?
90.
So we were like up to about here, you know, that this person could only flex it to about 25 degrees. Okay.
So pretty significant. And that plays into the schedule for rating disabilities,
Correct.
those measurements that are noted by the examiner on
Yes.
that DBQ you mentioned.
Right. And there's some other components as well, but the biggest thing is that range of motion. So you could have, you know, the worst garbagey looking knee in the world, but if your range of motion is completely normal, you know, it is what it is. And so I see veterans get frustrated quite a bit because they're like, I've had so many surgeries. Well, your number of surgeries and number of visits you have with your treating provider don't necessarily equate to it's your function. What is your function?
Exactly. And you mentioned pain on motion, which is
Hmm.
very important to get a rating, plus x-ray evidence and surgeries and things like that. Leah, you are so helpful in helping
So
AVET
sweet.
Project and American Warrior Radio get this information out. The podcast, again, yours.
Yeah, so if you hop over to YouTube at Prestige Veteran Medical Consulting, you can check us out there. Also, we're on several different podcasts, the Nexus Letter Resource, and you can listen to those on your way to work or whatever. And again, every Monday we put out a new YouTube video, so check that out if you get an opportunity. And there's some great
Every
info there.
Monday. Yes,
Yep.
Prestige Veterans. Leah Buchholz with Prestige Veterans
Mhm.
Medical Consulting. Thank you so much, Leah. And
Thank you.
I know we're going to have you back on again, but this was fundamental in getting the information out to guys and gals that are going to a C&P exam regarding an orthopedic, or what they say, musculoskeletal system disorder. So Leah, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend, and thanks for the opportunity, and can't wait to be back.
Always Prestige Veterans. Look it up on YouTube, everybody. Until next time, don't forget, thank a vet. Hi everyone, it's Garen Cohn with American Warrior Radio. I'm here with my good friend Christian. We're here to deliver a very important message about a crisis in our land.
Suicide prevention, more specifically, veteran suicide prevention.
22 a day are taking their own lives. This must stop. This can't continue. If you or someone you know is contemplating suicide, please know that God has tomorrow planned for you. Don't take your own life. And just remember, suicide is a permanent solution
To a temporary problem.